RWBY, Volume 1, Episode 1. Ruby Rose. What happens? Our story begins with a mysterious voice explaining the world and basic lore. We get introduced to Torchwick and our titular protagonist as they tussle. Glynda shows up and we get a glimpse at Cinder as the villains flee. Ruby avoids getting any punishment by virtue of being related to Ozpin's favorite drunkard and gets pushed ahead 2 school years instead. This means she's now in the same class as her sister, the Y in the title, Yang. The local news station drops some important facts about Faunus, we get a brief encounter with Jean, and the episode ends as the girls make it to their new school. Okay, so Volume 1's animation is blatantly the worst in RWBY, and they've clearly gotten better with it every subsequent volume, so I won't really be mentioning the animation quality throughout these reviews, except for especially well-animated moments, or when it's too bad to ignore. With that out of the way, let's get into the episode. Having Salem introduce us to the show is a good choice, I think. It resulted in a really good reveal later, and gives us important lore quickly. The opening lore dump only takes a minute 30 seconds. It doesn't drag, and it gets right to the point without wasting the viewer's time, which also makes it less annoying to sit through on repeated viewings. Jen Taylor's performance is a little weird though. Not bad, just she doesn't sound evil enough. Salem evil snarks all of her lines when she's revealed to be the big bad, but during this she has way more life and energy, making her almost feel like a different character. Which ultimately isn't really a negative, just sort of inconsistent, I guess. For the record though, I'd love it if Salem emoted more now, like how she does during this exposition. Yeah, make sure you establish that the currency of this world is called Lien. That's all the info we need about that. Value? Psh, just say numbers sometimes. As long as there's enough zeros, the audience will know it's expensive. Why does dust come in so many different forms? Crystals, coffee bags, goop, powder tubes? Who's buying raw dust for their weapons? Don't they need to be put into ammunition? Also, why doesn't this guy have any security? Clearly the stuff is valuable, why wouldn't he hire a huntsman to defend the store from thugs like these? This whole sequence with Ruby not being able to hear the goon because of her music is really cute and well done, and has become an iconic moment from the volume. It's a shame they just took the idea from the Cowboy Bebop movie to do it then. Why did this guy choose to hold up Ruby anyway? She's not doing anything, just take the dust and leave. What a good introduction to our hero. We immediately understand her character while also putting her weapon and fighting ability on display. It's good to have a fight scene lead our protagonist into the plot for an action anime. Gold star.
You were worth every cent, truly you were.
This line is delivered so awkwardly. Why does he rush through it like that? He mumbles to the point he's kinda hard to understand. Gray's the closest thing they have to a professional voice actor in the main cast for this volume. How did this happen? Why would you make Torchwick's squished cigar the focus of this shot if you can't animate it well?
You okay if I go after him?
I guess that's why you let Tyrion run away. Ruby couldn't ask permission to go after him. Why are you getting the okay to pursue these thugs from this guy? As it stands, it looks like you'll probably win. Just run after Torchwick and get the dust back. Speaking of which, what happened to all the dust the goons had? Did they just run off while Torchwick and Cinder distracted our heroes with an airship? I love that Ruby uses Crescent Rose to get around. In later volumes, Ruby sort of just flies around and uses her weapon to help her land more than anything, but she's really got weight in this volume, which makes a unique form of movement really cool. I'm glad Torchwick's an asshole, but still likable. He's a gentleman and charismatic, but also thinks it's fun to murder little girls. I don't want him to win, but I also like it when he's on screen. He's the only villain of the series who doesn't overconfidently snark or evil whisper, which easily makes him the most enjoyable one to watch. And he's a total hottie, but we won't talk about that. Glynda's confidence during this altercation does a good job showing the audience that she's a more seasoned fighter, even though we've seen Ruby handle herself well, both earlier in the fight and in her trailer. Ruby's obviously still skilled, but Glynda's demeanor helps to represent her experience. Buddy, grab your cane or it's gonna fall out! The music that plays when Cinder joins the fray is almost scary, and I love it. It really makes her feel ominous and like a real threat. Makes it a bit of a shame what she ended up being, then. Keeping her obscure does a good job of building intrigue, too. We want to know what this person looks like. However, the opening does this no favors by sticking her in a buttload of fire while keeping her top half kept in shadow. It just doesn't look great. The effect is much more successful here, where it looks like she's hiding in the shadows of the airship. I like that Ruby tries to help. She doesn't know all the malarkey around Cinder or Salem. She just knows that these are bad guys and they need to be stopped. It's also good that she's trying to be active during this fight, protag should be active in the story, without also making her a hindrance to Glynda. She's holding her own without getting in the way, and that's good. The fact that Cinder so effortlessly blocks RWBY's bullets also does a good job setting her up to be a threat. RWBY can't even touch her now, so she needs to get stronger to be able to face her later. Oh well. Lindsay's performance for RWBY is a lot stronger in these early episodes, in my opinion. I mean, she's no master actor, but she does a good job having RWBY sound young without her voice sounding fake. It's a shame that RWBY's voice devolves so much into one of the most annoying voices of the show.
That's my Uncle Crow. Crow, did you get drunk again?
The comedy in this episode is probably the weakest part. This scene especially, it just takes so long for Glynda to give us the punchline. If it were up to me, you'd be sent home with a pat on the back and a slap on the wrist. Writing crop. Like, pick up the pace a little. These huge pauses ruins the flow of the joke. When this episode first aired, everyone was so curious to the importance of Silver Eyes. Unfortunately, we had to wait 40 more episodes for them to even be brought back up again. And even now, the characters insist on not discussing the MacGuffin they set up during the first episode, to instead focus on building up all the lore around Ozpin. You know, the one who's not our protagonist. How did they get this camera angle of RWBY fighting? A scythe is one of the most dangerous weapons ever designed. With how much RWBY seems to struggle to hit anything with it lately, I find that hard to believe. If you can't animate RWBY eating well, then why did you give her a plate of cookies in the first place? Only seen one other scythe wielder of that skill? Crow's scythe has only been used once, to kill one enemy, in slow motion. If you're going to set up Crow to be this crazy impressive scythe wielder, wouldn't it have been a smart choice to actually have him use it? Show him be crazy good with the scythe so we can see where RWBY has to grow to if she wants to improve. Or just have him use the sword instead. Ozpin's blatant favoritism of RWBY sure makes Oscar's crush on her a lot more complicated.
And what is an adorable girl such as yourself doing at a school designed to train warriors?
It's Yang, the party girl who parties and stuff. You can tell she's a partier because she has a low-cut shirt and booty shorts. She's wild and crazy and goes to clubs and shit.
Oh, I can't believe my baby sister's going to Beacon with me. This is the best day ever!
Yeah. They never really portrayed Yang as the party girl they constantly insist she is. Honestly, a reviewer named Fat Man Falling did a great job going over this, so I'm going to suggest you check out his video on the topic. But in short, Yang's partying lifestyle is literally never shown in the series, to the point that I have to wonder why the writers are so insistent on talking it up. She's a party girl, but like, also secretly the motherly one of the group. No, she's blatantly the most mother-like of the four and never parties ever. This dialogue is really nice. The girls sound believable and the actresses are putting a ton of energy into the performances. Nice job. Lisa Lavender being 2D in this very 3D world is so immersion-breaking. This whole news report I find to be pretty unsuccessful, and I don't know why. When I first watched this scene, I just didn't pay attention to Lisa. I didn't even register that the people in her newsfeed had animal features. And you know, that may have just been me being dumb. I don't know why I just blacked out every time the news portion of this episode comes on. Maybe I was distracted by Lisa's 3 frames of mouth movement. Maybe it's because they kinda just throw a lot of terms at us that we didn't know yet. Faunus, White Fang. I don't know. I'm probably alone on this one, and that's okay. In order to get into Beacon, these kids need to demonstrate the courage needed to uphold the current time of peace. Then why were hundreds of students fleeing in droves from a single attack on the school? Put the relic at the schools where there are huntsmen in training who can defend them. Or fill the school with shitloads of cowards who run from a single Nevermore attacking the stadium. I'm just saying it seems the bar to entry is a lot lower than Glynda lets on. RWBY should have been able to see this view long before Glynda's little announcement, and it's ultimately really not an impressive view. If you're gonna have a big ol' build-up to a scenery shot, complete with characters oohing and eyeing and a swell in the music, why not do something more than showing a few blacked out rooftops and mostly the sky? The view of Beacon's cliff face is way better. Why not do something like that for RWBY to gasp and gawk at? I wonder if over-designed Magoo over there is gonna be important. When I first watched this episode, I actually didn't think Jean would be a returning character for some reason. I guess I just figured we'd only be spending time with our title team. How foolish of me. And so, that was Ruby Rose. I think this was a very good introduction to the show. We showcased our title character and got a little bit of action to whet our appetites for fights to come. Lore and backstory was handed out efficiently and quickly. Characters were clearly established. The writing's nothing special, but the characters sound believable enough. It made me want to watch more when I first saw it, and while the animation can be lackluster at times, it still holds up well today.
Yeah!
Oh, can't wait.
New life at this new school. I ain't gonna associate myself with you first day of school.